Tutorial, we're going to look at what happens when we graph data and it's not a straight line. So what I'm going to do is highlight my data here. And so this is generic data. It's just X and Y. It's boring, but it kind of shows what we're doing. So I'm going to highlight my data. I'm going to go to Insert Chart. I've got to make sure my chart type is a scatter plot so that I can actually see the data points. And then I'm going to stop here. I'm going to close this because something interesting just happened. When I plotted my data, I did not get a straight line. This graph is curving upwards. Okay? A straight line would not show the pattern, the trend of the data. So because this data is curving, we are going to have to transform the data. Okay? So here's going to be what we do. When you look at this data, it might remind you of a shape you've seen in math class. It might look like a parabola. We know that for parabolas, y equals x squared. So back in your toolbox, we're going to add one more type of graph today. And here it is. So when you graph your data, y versus x, and it looks like a parabola, it curves upwards like this graph here. When that happens, the way we're going to find our math model is we are going to straighten our data. So we are going to transform our data. We're going to regraph it. Okay? And what we are going to graph is still y, but instead of graphing x, we're going to graph x squared. Since a parabola over here looks like y equals x squared, we're going to graph y and x squared. And that will give us a straight line. When that gives us a straight line, our math model is going to look like y equals the slope times x squared, because x squared is on our axis down here now. And then we will say that y is proportional to x squared. Okay? So put that in your toolbox. That's the third and last one for today. Put that in your toolbox, and then I'm going to show you how to apply that. So pause this as long as you need to write that down in your toolbox. So in your toolbox, all three graphs that you see right here, they should have all three of those. And then I'm going to show you how we apply that, okay? So I'm going to go back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the data. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to go to Copy. I'm going to go over next door to it. Don't go below it. Go next door. And I'm going to paste it, which you can do by going Edit, Paste. That pastes the data. So if you look, you can see this is an identical copy. Now, what we want to do is graph y and x squared. So I'm going to highlight everything here and push the delete key. And this is going to be x squared. Okay? And so I need to take each of these numbers over here and square it and put it there. And you could probably do this with your calculator or maybe even in your head for this simple case. But I'm going to show you a quick way to let the computer do the work, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to tell the computer to take this number over here and square it. So in this cell right here, I'm in E9. Click in E9, push the equals key. That tells the computer it's going to do a calculation. Click over here on B9. If you click on B9, it'll put a B9 in there. So what we want the computer to do is take B9 and raise it to the power of 2. Okay? So this little symbol right here, it looks like a little hat. It's what you get when you hit Shift and then 6. It means to the power of. Okay? So the computer is going to take B9 and raise it to the power of 2. And once you write that formula, you can click on it again. You can grab the bottom right corner and pull it down, and it'll copy the formula down. So this cell will take B9 and square it. This cell will take B10 and square it. This cell down here will take B16 and square it. So there we did. We squared all the numbers really quickly. Okay? Back up and watch that again if you need to. Now what I'm going to do is graph this. This is my transformed data. So I'm going to go to Insert, Chart. Sadly, Google never seems to get this right. The chart type needs to be a scatter plot. So now you can see the data points and they are no longer curving. There's a straight line there. So what you can do is you can go to your horizontal axis, make the minimum 0, go to Series, just like we've always done. Add a trend line. You can see that it's a nice straight line. Underneath the trend line on label, go to Use Equation, and you can see the slope is 0.5. So our last step is to write our equation. We go to Custom, and then down a little bit more where it says Custom Label, we're going to say y equals the slope, 0.5, times whatever we graphed on the x-axis, which is x to the power of 2, x squared. Okay? I'm just going to go down to Legend here, make the position inside, and I'm going to make it a little bigger so we can see it. So there's my math model. Okay, now because this was generic data, x and y, my math model has an x and a y in it. But for every other problem, we're going to put in the quantities that are there. You would then fix your title. It would be the relationship between y and x for a sample set of data. The conclusion is going to look like this. Y is proportional to x squared. Okay? So at this point, go ahead and finish that graph up so it looks something like this. Don't worry about the title. I just kind of wanted to show you the technique of how we square x. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go on to the next tab called Reaction Rates. And it's got a set of data. And when you graph this data, you will notice it's not a straight line. So you're going to have to copy and paste it over here and square all the values of x. We never mess with y, the second column. We always mess with x, the first column. We're going to square all those and graph it. It'll be a straight line, and you'll see if you can find your math model. Okay? When you get that done, show it to me, and if all looks good, you are done for the day. All right? There's a couple more on the end here that we're not going to do right now. We're just getting to reaction rates. Okay? All right, good luck.